Sit down.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of More Content Talk. That's the only show that cuts through all the glam, the glitz, and all the bullshit to bring you the truthiest news we can find. We are smack dab in the middle of yet another hate parade. We saw a lot of it with the black community, obviously, and, the beginning of the pandemic. That still continues to this day. It hasn't gone away. But now we're seeing it with the Asian people. Asian people have been experiencing it as well throughout the pandemic. It's on an uptick. It's going through the roof. We're seeing many of our Asian friends terrorized, beaten, some even killed. All because of very old prejudices that have been around forever, but also because when you live in a nation that is the epitome of ignorance, of the United States of America, if anything is the epitome of ignorance, it is a nation that ignores, I would say chronically, every real problem. Anything that's real, Americans avoid it. As I said before, Americans live in a world of fantasy. You don't understand. Hollywood is America. If you hate Hollywood, you hate America. Okay? There's another more conservative view that states that, well, Hollywood is the cause of all of America's ills. That's the racist side of the argument. That's the anti-Jewish side of the argument. I'm not making that argument at all. Because it's like I said before, a movie is a shadow on a wall. It's like Plato's cave, right? You make the images. You assign it the meaning, you see. The movie doesn't do anything. It's an inanimate object. It's a reflection of you. Your wants and desires. The things you want. The things you deep down you really want. Even if you hate the fact that you want it, you still want it. And there's a level of that there that plays into Asian hatred. Because many people believe, and I've spoken to some people that, or they're not friends of mine, but they feel they can be open with me for whatever reason. They say these very terrible things about how they don't think that Asian people deserve to be here for whatever reason. They don't think that Asian people deserve to have as much money as they have, or they don't think that they deserve to be on welfare. And there's a lot of this anti-Asian sentiment, but it's more than just anti-Asian. It's anti-immigrant, because a lot of Asian people have immigrated here. Of course, there are ones who have been here for generations. But if you notice, a lot of times there's this reference to coming from elsewhere. Even if the person has lived here, it doesn't matter. It's like me. I'm black, right? My family has been in this country most likely since the 18th century. Brought as slaves, but still, nonetheless, you would think that after abolition and, the civil rights movement, all this stuff, that we would have some claim here that, people wouldn't look at us differently. But they do. They still do. They still see us as coming from Africa. Is one of the reasons I'm so against the term African American, is because I'm not from Africa. And yet, the United States has found a way to make it sound as if I do not come from America. No, you're not quite from America. You're from Africa, America. There is no Africa, America. That's not a continent. And I understand, maybe that term was developed with good intentions, but I don't appreciate it. And I know that there are some Asian people who don't like to be called Asian. You know, they want to be called where they came from, whether they're Korean or, you know, Filipino, Hawaiian, whatever it may be. And there's so many levels of Asian. Just say Asian hate. That's kind of diminishing what goes on. But you know, regardless, a term is a term, and that's what the media has chosen. And it's interesting that the media chose that term because as soon as the term, I first saw the term used in the media, I automatically saw an article that was written by an Asian person, and they were stating that the media was whitewashing their movement, and that's absolutely right, and that's absolutely what happens, and they won't take it seriously. Take it from a black person. The media will not take anything seriously. What they'll do is they'll market it, they'll package it, and they'll sell it. And this is also the reason why people become so disenchanted with movements. Is because one moment it's sincere, and then the media gets their hands on it. And the media wants to make money. Why does media want to make money? Because this is America. That's what you do. And so every movement becomes cheap, and you know, people lose interest. It's the same thing that always happens. It doesn't matter if it's the civil rights movement, the freedom riders, or today. Because this is a nation that's purchase happy. They like to buy things. And if you're not selling anything, they don't really have that much time for you. And this isn't anything to sell. This is serious stuff. This is a serious problem. It's something that needs to be addressed. And that is why I promise you Americans will avoid it. At all costs. There is a huge problem with a lack of empathy. Perhaps it comes from capitalism a bit. Yeah, I think that's an argument you can make. But it's also ingrained in the American culture. It is a culture that is not interested in your happiness. It says it in the Constitution. Look, pursue your own happiness. Leave me alone. They should have wrote that in the Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, excuse me, or the Constitution. They should add an amendment. You know, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz could work on it. It'd be called the "Go Fuck Yourself" amendment. Right? And just leave me alone and let me make my money. People would love it. Americans would love it. And stop talking to me when you have a problem. I don't want to hear about it. This is going to happen with Asian people as well. You don't need to be smart to recognize these trends that go on. Should we be taking Asian people seriously when they're crying out to us for help and screaming at us to stop, you know, the nonsense, stop blaming them for every little problem? Of course. Will we? Probably not. And I'm the only one that's going to be honest about that. Everyone else is going to I don't know, read a poem or something. And none of this performance art, right? This puffery, this these empty promises, these lies about, you know, well, maybe one day we'll get to the mountaintop. It's a great speech. You know that speech? I've told you about that speech before. Thought up on the fly. Also a sad speech in the sense when you think about the assassination that comes later when MLK gets assassinated later after talking about the getting to the mountaintop. He doesn't, you know, I understand, you know, it's a metaphor. I get all that. But look at the reality of how the dream ended. It ended just as King said it was end, as a nightmare. There's no mountaintop to get to. This is it, and it's turning into a shit show. There comes a time when you really have to look around and you have to ask yourself, is this what we're working toward? Are there any solutions to Asian hate? Does anyone have anything to offer other than, well, that's just the way it is? Because that's all I hear. I want to believe the hype. I want to believe that when I watch NBC and CNN and Fox and MSNBC and PBS and all the big networks that have all this money and all these wonderful effects, and my God, you feel like you've walked into a church when you watch some of these news stations. It's a very holy experience, very spiritual. And I want to believe that these people are on our side. I do, because I don't think that there's any conspiracies or anything like that. And I also see them as being rather dumb. And this is the problem, is that when you're dumb, you can't see things like hate. When you're just so ignorant, careless, thoughtless, it's not hate to you anymore. It's an inconvenience, a mild inconvenience, and oh well, let's just pander to them a bit, and the mild inconvenience will go away. And that's politics 101. I don't want to sit here and lie to you and say that things are going to magically get better if we all work together. That's a mockery, and it's insincere. So, the best I could do is tell you a story. When I worked in my old job, I had a friend who was named Wealthy. It was an Asian friend of mine. And we bonded one time, and it was over racism. You see, Wealthy didn't talk that much. He kind of kept to himself. He was quiet. Not that great of an English speaker, but he could speak. Don't get me wrong. Like you could understand. Like when Wealthy spoke, you heard what he said, and you listened, because this is a guy who wanted to get into martial arts, and I'm not making this up. This is true. He wants to be the next big martial arts guy, and wherever you are, Wealthy, I really hope you make it. Sincerely, I do. Because, I know what it's like not to be taken seriously. And this is kind of where me and this guy bonded a little bit. Like, I'm a black guy, right? San Jose, California. Everyone who comes from San Jose, California is supposed to be a computer engineer. Everyone knows. Computer engineer, teacher. Those are your two choices in San Jose, California. You don't get to do anything else. If you don't do that, then you work in retail or you're a fucking waiter. And that's why San Jose is such a, I don't know, whatever it is. But, I didn't want to do that, right? And then being black on top of it and get into the theater world. Wow, that's a white world. They talk a big game about being all-inclusive and all that, but when you get to those, casting auditions, my God, some of this, like I don't know, some of the whitest attended, most white attended events ever are theater auditions. Just seas and oceans of white people. Hey, you're the one black person, and you're sitting there like, oh God. Because some jackass in the casting guys who do, wow, it was a great audition. Don't get me wrong. You did a wonderful job. Yeah. But you're not white, so just go fuck off. And Asian people experience that. Wealthy experienced that one time when he was, because we were performers, right? We were performing, we were working together. And my whole job got it in their head that it would be a good idea. And you're going to think this is nuts. This was before COVID, but still, it's fucking racist as fuck against Asian people. They, what they did was, in the attraction, it had a plague scene, right? And in the early 1900s, the plague almost took over San Francisco, California. This is real history. I'm not making this up. About 30 people died. They were able to stop it before a mass breakout occurred. So you don't read about it much in history books because it was really a rather mild event. But it was actually the bubonic plague. So don't think for 1 second that that can't happen, because it almost did. And knowing you lazy fucks, it just might happen on a large scale this time. So, just saying. But anyway, this particular scene took place in Chinatown. Okay. And so, as you walk off of this really kind of, crappy raft ride that we had, I'm not getting my job back. It don't matter, folks. They're not gonna hire me. I'm black and, replaceable. So I'm just gonna talk shit. So as you go down, this, like, I don't know, it's like a 10-foot boat ride, and then and then you get off. And you walk in, and the next thing you know, you're kind of in this little hallway, and it's dark, and there's all kinds of I guess what is supposed to be Chinese writing. Who knows if it actually is? It was just some white person wrote it. Who knows? I don't speak Chinese. And there's all this kind of, I don't know what the nationality of it, so I'll just say Asian music playing, even though what the fuck is Asian music? Who knows? It was really just a bunch of gongs and cymbals. It didn't sound like any real song. It's just bong, dong, dong. So it's already racist, and you haven't even gotten to the show yet, because there's a show that comes after all this. So it's already racist. There's people throwing up in the street. All the decoration is clearly Asian inspired, and so this is basically insinuating that Chinatown is a dirty place, right? Anyway, then you get in there, and it used to just be the plague doctor would do the show, but they changed it for some reason. I think because they didn't have enough actors, to some weird, like, it was called like the Tong Show. And this Tong Show, and that's what it was called, essentially was a puppet show, but it consisted of various kind of anti-Asian, like Mr. Tong was going to do this bad thing to you kind of jokes. And they were just racial slurs. I mean, one racial slur after the other, right? Over and over and over again. And I think that right there sums it up, doesn't it? That was entertainment. It was a show, and that was going on in 2020, before the pandemic. And it's like I said before with blackface, right? If you can mock a person that easily, you've dehumanized them. And it becomes very easy to be racist. Am I calling for canceling stuff like that? Yeah, maybe we should. What would be the problem? Are we really that bad at entertainment that we can't even find other jokes to tell? It kind of seems like we are. It kind of seems like we suck, and we all we do is just talk shit about each other and tear each other down and call each other names. And I don't know how I feel about that. We should stop the Asian hate. We should stop the black hate. We should stop all hate. Am I optimistic that that's going to happen? No, because I trust that people will remain true to themselves, and that this country has so poisoned the mind of what are supposedly well-meaning good people, even though I'm not too convinced of that. These people's minds have so been poisoned and filled with hate, and their hearts filled with hate, that they will continue to hate people like you and I, and Asian people, and gay people, and it will go on and on and on. And what you're going to have to do eventually is make a choice. You're going to stand with the hated or the haters. Now, America is supposedly a nation that doesn't like haters. Supposedly. You don't like haters? Prove me wrong. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. Hey, if you'd like to subscribe to More Content Talk on YouTube, you can do so at the channel More Content Talk. Also, you can check us out on Instagram, More Content Please MCP. Check us out on Anchor. You can go to the Anchor website and you can sponsor us or subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. We also have a live website up for More Content Talk. I hope you have a wonderful evening or afternoon or midday or morning whenever you're listening to this. And remember, if life ever gets you down, always remember you could laugh at something else. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.